do men want?
Manifests itself in relationships, and you feel it in relationships, and they can be very powerful spiritually. And if that's what you need, that's what you should go for.
And she said, oh, I'm going to go do a sweat lodge this evening. And I begged her to take me along, and that was about 6 years ago.
Welcome to Speaking of Men. This is public access television coming to you from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm your host, Sorry, guys, you want to count it on
You're
again?
our host, Mike Rivas.
I'm sorry. Welcome.
Who is your guest?
Welcome to Speaking of Men. This is public access television from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm your host, Mike Rivas, and
Right.
we're speaking today with Jim Sims. And Jim is a psychotherapist here in the Albuquerque area, and we're talking about creating joyous holidays. So let's talk about it. Jim, you told me you had a little book called Unplugging the Christmas Machine.
Mm-hmm.
Who wrote that? You want to hold that up so our
Sure.
people can see it?
Where do I hold it up?
Yeah, it's right there. It's fine. Joe Robinson and Gene Kopuk Stahili wrote it.
Yeah, it's an interesting book. I borrowed it from another therapist to do some of the research for the information that I came up with. It's interesting in that it's written by two women, and it's got some interesting insights because you have to step back for this program.
Right.
I was thinking about how it would, figure into men, how men could do that. And you have to step back because the book is directed towards how women can unplug the Christmas machine, not necessarily how men can. I don't know of any, I haven't seen any good books on men and Christmas and unplugging the machine.
In this program, we're focusing, I thought of a joke, Jim, but we won't tell it. In this program, we're focusing on the creation of a more joyous holiday season. And we're having a lot of joy down here right now, and so we wanted to kind of focus on that. Tell us about some of the conflicts that parents face, if you would.
One of the things that happens with, I think, more recently, one of the things you got to keep in mind is that in 1991, Christmas starts in, again, I think I'd mentioned earlier, last program that we did, that I had seen Christmas starting in Halloween. Mm-hmm. I saw Christmas decorations in Kmart on Halloween. And we have a long period of Christmas from Halloween until December the 25th. That's a long time to get ready for Christmas. Parents are under a lot of stress. Kids are under a lot of stress. That's only been a recent development, because if you start looking back at the 1890s up until the first part of this century, Christmas didn't really start. Thanksgiving was over. Christmas didn't start until, the 10th or 15th of December was when people started celebrating, not in October. So our people are under a lot of pressure about the holidays.
It all blurs, doesn't it?
Yes.
It all blurs.
Women are specifically under a lot of stress because because October to Christmas, it's theirs. They have to work and get ready for Christmas. One of the things that happens for children is that if we program them, if we program our children that Christmas is presents, that what Christmas is about is presents, then what happens is they start the latter part of October and go through until December the 25th in the morning at the present, when they open their present. It's not, the kids are going to be bummed. There's no way that they cannot be bummed when they've got this 2.5 month preparation time, and then all of a sudden they open up the present, and there isn't any present that you can give them that will equal that build-up time, because it would have to be some sort of a nirvana, and it's just not there.
Right. We have a few PSAs programmed for you, and we're going to take a short break. We hope you'll stay with us, because we're going to be right back.
I never dreamed in a million years that I would need United Way. But my daughter Sandra lost her hearing when she was only 2 years old. I was afraid she would withdraw into a silent world, away from all the people who loved her. But because you gave to United Way, she's learning to be a part of the hearing world.
Thank you.
Turn someone's life around. Give to United Way.
Shriners helped kids. Kids like Rich Belanger.
5 years ago, I lost my feet in an accident. Thanks to Shriners Hospitals for Crippled Children, I've been able to remain as active as my friends. More active than some. And the care that I received at Shriners Hospitals didn't cost me or my family one penny. If you know someone under the age of 18 with a problem of the bones, joints, or muscles, the Shriners might be able to help.
Shriners Hospitals. 1-800-237-5055.
Welcome back to Speaking of Men. This is Public Access Television from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm your host, Mike Rivas, and we're speaking with Jim Sims on creating joyous holidays. This is the second part of a program, second part of a two-program set that just looks at dealing with some of the pressures and heartbreaks and other kinds of stresses that we traditionally deal with for about the last 3 months of the year. In case you haven't gotten the message, spend money. Jim, in this program we were talking a little bit about how men and women are affected in families. How about single parents? Would you like to say something real quick about that?
Single parents, the women, single parents, as far as getting their children ready for Christmas, are probably better equipped to do that, because what they'll do is they'll step into their mother's role, which means what their mother has probably done, has done all the Christmas work. Their mom probably bought the presents and got the tree decorated and sent out all the cards. So the single mom is probably better prepared to do that, to be with the kids and give the kids some sort of a Christmas. Single men who are single parents are in more of a bind, because what their role model has been to maybe go buy the Christmas tree and maybe put it up, and that traditionally has been it. And then they don't do a lot up until the Christmas day. Then what they do is they unwrap the presents and watch the kids unwrap the presents, get up, go in and eat, then get up and go in and probably drink some beers and watch television for the rest of the day. So if that is what the man has learned to do when he's been married and the first few years of his child's life, then what happens when he becomes the sole presenter of Christmas to his children? If he's talking about quality time with his children, he's not very well equipped, because he has never done it. He's not very well equipped to give his children quality time, because, I mean, the kids are, well, I suppose if the kids' traditions are going to be watching Dad get up from the table and go in and drink beer and watch football, I suppose that's what he can do. But if he wants to spend some good quality time with them, he's going to have to work with it.
Yeah, I remember I was a single dad, but I didn't have custody. So some Christmases my ex worked with me pretty well on, and I got to spend some time with her. There were a few Christmases and Thanksgivings and things when all I did was just get to make a token appearance, deliver whatever presents I had, and go away. Yeah. And boy, you talk about depression. You know, I mean, it's a lot of my anger as a man is living in a society that cut my spirituality and my ability to love and interact with my children completely off, and said that it wasn't valid. I had no right to it. You know, I mean, what I could do is provide money, or I could provide gifts, or I could provide clothes, but these things, you know. Hey. But so much for my anger. Let's talk about how children feel and are affected by the holidays. I mean, you and I both were talking about the fact that there's a lot of advertising commercialism. Did you have some things about that you'd like to say?
Well, again, unless we've done some planning for Christmas, again, depression comes when your life is out of control. The way you get your life back into control is do some planning for Christmas. That means that Christmas for your children should not be wholly centered on that 8:15 on Christmas morning when they open their presents. Because if it is, all the child is going to know is presents, me, greed. And so what we're trying to do, I think, around Christmas is get some sort of a total picture of Christmas, which we're trying to get the child involved in the family things, which means you need to get the child involved in other things around other than the presents. One of the things, and this book makes an interesting comment, it talks about commercialism, the commercials, and the fact that Madison Avenue is selling to our kids.
Right.
And
you know, I wanted to say something. I was buying my granddaughter some clothes, trying to get her a little outfit. And as an infant, you know, she's 4 months old, it was a situation where I had to really look to find something that didn't have a cartoon, a commercialized cartoon character on it. I, just as an aside, before you read from the book and I let you continue, I suspect that this attempt to force feed commercial images, myths, and things of that ilk into the newborn from the get-go robs them of access to some of those stories that should come to them verbally, and some of those images that they should get from the culture that don't have anything to do with the electronic and the print media.
Oh, I agree.
You know, and it affects their values.
I agree.
Go ahead with what you got there.
Well,
I was burned up, man.
What it talks about is that Madison Avenue directs their advertising to our children because they know that, well, the Madison Avenue directs their advertising to the children. They also know that the children can't really tell, say, a 4 or 5-year-old can't really tell the difference when he's watching a TV show, whether he's looking at the actual show or a commercial.
Yeah. Well, a lot of programs are commercials.
Yeah. But if you're watching Daffy Duck or whatever, or if the child is watching Daffy Duck and there's a commercial comes on to sell something, whatever it is, a Nintendo game, the child can't really tell what is the commercial and what is the actual show. So it's really easy for Madison, and Madison Avenue knows that, so it's really easy for Madison Avenue just to slip the commercial in on the kid, child. Sorry about that. This is a comment from, the following comments are from an article in an advertising trade journal titled Advertising Age, July 19th, 1965. When you sell a mother on a product and she goes into the store and finds your brand isn't in stock, she'll probably forget it. But when you sell a kid on your product, if he can't get it, he will throw himself on the floor, stamp his feet, and cry. You can't get a reaction like that from an adult. So that's why they sell to the kids. And a lot of the Christmas advertising that we see is directed towards children. and the children are actually helpless. What they do, because the kids don't know what's going on, what they talk about doing in that book is sit down, and this gets back to planning, and it gets back to getting your life into control. What they talk about is sitting down with your child and watching the TV show and telling them when a commercial comes on, talking about what a commercial is for, and having them recognize what it's all about.
What this basically, let me see if I'm reading this right. What's basically happening is you're taking a child and you're making their emotional balance and well-being. I mean, if you're trying to encourage somebody to have a fit because they don't have a thing, you're teaching them from the get-go, from the time they're little bitty, that their emotional center has to do with the things they have.
I thought that's what capitalism was all about.
Is that what it's about?
I thought that was what it was all about. I thought it was I want, give me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what Mercedes are about. That's what Mercedes are all about. You go out and you sell the adult the idea of a Mercedes, and when they have the Mercedes and the right house and all those things, that they're going to be okay. That's what it's all about.
Right. What is the old one? The questions that they had for men was if your wife goes and your children go and your house goes and your car goes, what have you got left?
You got you.
Yeah, that's the right answer.
Okay. Yeah.
But
see, what we're talking about again in this program is we're talking about how people can get through the holidays in one piece.
Sure.
And when we start talking about those sorts of issues, when people come to me and say, how can I get through the holidays, what I can teach them or try to help them with is help them cope with what's going on. And the problem is that a lot of people aren't willing to address these kinds of issues except between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Mm-hmm. I mean, because what happens in Christmas is there's this whole thing about families.
Which increasingly more and more don't exist.
Right. But the other thing about this book I thought was fascinating is, and this is for people who are trying to cope with Christmas anxieties or the blues. Be realistic about your family. It took me a long time to realize that when we got around the holidays, that what was going to happen is, well, first of all, I think we've got this ideal image of what the families are like. You only have to look on a couple of magazines or watch TV for a little bit, and you've got this ideal father and mom, and all the little kids are sitting around, they're all looking up at the dad, and life is wonderful. And that's what happens. They all carve the turkey. It's all wonderful. And people are programmed to believe that. It took me a long time to deal with the fact that when I get with my family around issues like these, my father is probably going to growl. He's going to spend a whole lot of time growling. My mother is going to, my mother's never going to see this. My mother is going to whine, and then she's going to say, why don't you get back with your ex-wife? And she's going to do that for about a half an hour. And if I don't take that knowledge with me, if I don't sit down and take that knowledge with me into a Christmas, those sorts of knowledge with me into a Christmas reunion, it's going to blow me away because I'm not going to be ready for it, because I'm going to say, oh, it's going to be wonderful. Well, it's not. Dad's going to growl and Mom's going to say, why aren't you with your ex-wife? And that's what's going to happen with parents and families out there. I mean, if your dad's an alcoholic or a drunk, for you to say, just, well, I'm going to go home and Dad's going to be sober, it's not going to happen. Dad's going to be drunk.
You know, there's nothing wrong with making money, and there's nothing wrong with spending money. There's nothing wrong with affluence and prosperity, and on the flip side, I mean, there's really not. On the flip side of that, there's nothing wrong with the focus on the spiritual. There's nothing wrong with the honoring of the traditional American values of mom, dad, and child. There's nothing wrong with an American culture setting aside times for us to be together and to look at those. What's the madness? What's the hook in there? What is it that's feeding this depression and causing this heartbreak? What is it that all this sadness, excess drinking, pressure, and that thing, what's it about?
As far as I can tell, and this is Jim Sims speaking probably from here and from here, it's a matter of people saying, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it anymore. And then just stopping and saying, I'm not going to do that. But a lot of people, it's a lot of people that get on a roll and they'll say, well, I'm doing this, and they won't stop it because everybody else is doing it.
It actually has a life of its own that catches you up and possesses you. In the last program, I think, maybe it was this one, I thought in the last one you were saying and mentioning the importance of the fact that people need to realize that this is happening to them, that they are stressed out. I was kind of amazed at your revelation that what you do is eat for 3 months, you know, as a sign of depression. And, you know, so a lot of it is what we deny possesses us. So it is actually trying to take some kind of a sane look and get some kind of a perspective rather than just being caught up in the whole thing. If you are dead broke, man, you can say I love you, and that's as good as a Christmas gift as there is anyway, right? I mean,
I think one of the things that the kids, that the book again talks about, that kids want when we start talking about children, what the children want from their parents is they want quality time. One of the main things they want is quality time.
Hold on a minute. We have a tape, and we want you to stay with us. It's our bulletin board that we run each program, and we'll be right back with you. We hope you'll stay with us because we are coming back, Jim Sims and I. And catch the community calendar here. There's some things that'll help you. Bye-bye. Welcome back to Speaking of Men. This is Public Access Television coming to you from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I am Mike Rivas, your host. This is Jim Sims, who is a psychotherapist in the Albuquerque, New Mexico area. And what we would like to do is finish the program up with some basic ideas on what people can do to make the holidays better for themselves. Ways of avoiding depression, ways of working better as a family group, ways of integrating activities for the parent and the youngster, and just to generally make the season to be jolly. So, Jim, you got some ideas on that?
I've got a couple of ideas. One of the things that, and I'm talking about family, so I'm talking about parents and children. When you start talking about Christmas, one of the things that the children are going to be looking for is they're going to be looking for quality time. A lot of them are going to be coming home from school, whether it's elementary school or grades, or junior high or high school or college, and when they come home, they would like to know that their parents are going to be able to spend some quality time with them, to sit down and talk, or probably better would be to do some Christmassy things. But one of the things that the children want from their parents is quality time. A couple of other things, since we've talked about the recession, I think it's good, it will be good for our heads and our children's heads if we don't have the money that we have had in the past, rather than overspend ourselves and run into ourselves in February, is sit down with the children, depending how old they are, and say, you know, we don't have as much money as we've had in the past, and what we're dealing with is Mr. Bush's recession. So what we're going to have to do is cut back. We're going to try to be a little more caring. We'll show that caring, show that Christmas stuff in other ways than buying things. I think the best time I've had with my son on Christmas was right around, I don't know if it's actually Christmas because I'm not sure the zoo was open or not, but we spent a whole lot of time just walking around the zoo, just talking. There were no presents really involved. We just spent time with each other. I think that's what our children want from us. Those sorts of things. If you don't have a lot of money, then again, in resting Christmas back for us, sit down and plan ways to make it a joyous holiday without spending money. Make presents. Sit down and with a newspaper and go through it with the kids and see what kind of events are going on in town that you and the kids would like to go to. Well, if they're home for the holidays and they want to go to a Lobos game, take them to a basketball game. It doesn't necessarily have to be around Christmas, but I think if it's going to be around Christmas, then we, and our children need to sit down and make plans about what we're going to do and what we need to do.
I'd like to thank you a whole bunch for coming down and spending some time with us today, Jim. I invariably, when you come on, I have some food for thought in later periods of my life. I'm Mike Rivas, and this is Speaking of Men. It's public access television for Albuquerque, New Mexico. We would like to wish you a Merry Christmas and a good, sane holiday season. Leave drugs and booze alone. Love one another and be nice. We hope that you'll come back and join us again. I'm just telling you to stand if you can. You guys run if you got to run. But don't quit trying. Come back and see us again. Bye-bye.